Hi again. So following on from the axe sharpening video, I'm going to show you how to sharpen a knife today. So I'm going to show you how to sharpen one of these Mora knives. This is a knife that we talked about briefly in the tool introduction video. These are really easy to sharpen. They have what's called a Scandinavian or flat ground bevel. And the bevel is this section on the knife here, this bottom section here. So a flat bevel is nice and easy to sharpen. So that's one of the reasons why I really recommend a knife like this. So the principles are the same as axe sharpening, but the techniques are a little bit different, and so are the bits of equipment that you can use. So just like with the axe, you can use a Japanese water stone like this. You can use any other combination stone, like an oil stone or whetstone or anything really, with a coarse side and a fine side. We've got like a miniature whetstone here, or a miniature combination stone. This has got a diamond stone on one side and a ceramic stone on the other side. That works pretty well. These are good for camping, if you want to take something with you to sharpen your tools. And you can even use wet and dry sandpaper, which is a really good budget way of doing stuff, and I actually really like this. This is the way that I'm going to show you how to do it today. It's my favourite method. This is just a couple of sheets of wet and dry sandpaper. This is just quite cheap stuff from, I can't remember where. This has got 800 grit and 1200 grit, and then you just use double-sided tape or glue and stick it to a piece of wood. 800 on one side, 1200 on the other. So that's a really cheap way of doing stuff. If you've got your Japanese water stone, like I used in the axe sharpening video, I'll show you how to do that first. So get your stone wet, soak it, and then with your knife we're going to colour in the bevel. That way we can see where we've sharpened, which bits we've missed, which helps take some of the guesswork out. If you watch the axe video, then you'll see we did the same with that. So, I'm going to put the whetstone, water stone on the bench, and then going to lay the knife flat on the stone and then tilt it up, just so that the bevel engages with the face of the stone, and I'm going to push away from myself like that, all the time keeping the bevel in contact with the stone. And you want to work as if you're trying to slice a layer off the top of the stone. I'm going to do that 8 times on that side, roundabouts, and then turn it over and do the same number of strokes coming back the other way on the other side. And then you turn the stone over and do exactly the same again on the fine side of the stone. So lay the blade flat, tilt it up until the bevel engages. Again, the same number of strokes. So it's important that you do the same number of strokes on both sides. However, whatever your chosen number is, 8 is normally about right. And then before I finish, I do 8 alternate strokes. And then dry that off. And then use a leather strop. I use one of these in the axe sharpening videos. This is just a piece of leather glued to a piece of wood and then loaded up with some polishing compound. And with this you work away from the cutting edge. So you can do, again, the same number of strokes on each side. You do quite a lot with this, a bit more than 8. I like to do about 50. Do 25 on one side and 25 on the other. I'm not going to do all 25. now. This is just to show you what I would do. But you could also put the strop on the bench and go alternately like this. This makes a massive difference. This is the most important step, I think. In fact, once your knife is sharp, you hardly ever have to sharpen it properly with the stone. You just use a strop perhaps every time you use it or every other time you use it. So it's really useful to have one of these. So that's with the whetstone. Now I'm going to show you with the sandpaper. So again, you start with the coarse side first. So this side is 800 grit, so I'm going to start with that. You can do this in the same way as with the whetstone, but you can't push because you'll cut into the sandpaper. So you pull away instead, so you pull away from the cutting edge like this. And again, same number of strokes on each side is really important. And then turn it over, do the same again. That's one way you could do it. Or you can hold the knife in this hand and your sharpening stick in this hand and push away from the edge like this. So whichever method you do, it's important that you keep the sharpening your piece of sharpening equipment in contact with the whole bevel the whole time, not just on the edge, covering the whole bevel. And so the best way to make sure that you've done that is by colouring in the edge with your pen. We do that on both sides. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now I can see that I've missed a few bits there, so I'm going to just go over those with the sharpening stick. And then turn that round and come back the other way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And then turn it round and use the fine side. Do the same number of strokes again covering the whole bevel. And then turn it back out on the other side, the same number of strokes again. And then I like to alternate a couple of times, like 2 on that side or 3 on that side, and then 3 on that side as well, and then back over again. Just to make sure that you've done things evenly on each side. And then once you've done that, let the strop again. So you can do the same thing really. You can lay the strop down on the face of the knife and then tilt it up so that you engage the bevel, and then work away from the cutting edge like that. Making sure that you're covering the whole bevel, not just the tip, not just the very cutting edge. And then on this side again. Making sure that you've got the whole surface of the bevel. And again, same as with the axe, you should be able to look down the knife and not see any flat spots reflected back at you, so the edge should always be invisible when you look down it. And then the best way to check that your knife is sharp is just by carving a piece of wood. So I've got a bit of seasoned alder here, I'm just going to slice away. And you can see that's pretty sharp. A good way of checking is to have a look at the surface of the wood. You should get left with a nice smooth finish with no scratches or anything in it. And that's it. That should be perfect for wood carving. So yeah, that's it. If you haven't got a strop, then you can just use a normal piece of leather, or you can even use a leather belt. So this is a good thing to have. If you're camping or something, you don't want to take all the stuff with you, you can just use your leather belt, like wrap it around a tree and just use that as a strop. You can also use cardboard with rubbing compound on it. You could use a piece of wood with the polishing compound on it, but that's a really important step. So I recommend trying to find something that you can use for that last step. So I think that's it for knife sharpening. If you've got any questions about that, then just give us a shout. Cheers.